Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Karis Project podcast. Today we have back with us John Goodman, who is coming to discuss some of the issues with the Obama connection and what Tulsi Gabbard had talked about. You want to reintroduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Goodman, and as you know, I definitely am focused on election integrity. It's what I do for a living, and there's not much of it now, but we'll be talking later. There's some very good news on the way, and I just want to tell you that we have got a packed show today. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm going to turn it back over to Dale to get right into things. And also, it's good to see Kaysha again. I sort of miss her chow at the start of the show. I miss that. I'm used to that. So
Yeah.
bring that back next time.
Yeah, we figured just kind of switch it up and kind of show a little bit of stuff of what we were doing prior to COVID, so people can get an idea of why we're doing what we're doing. So we're going to pull up a clip here, and we're going to bring up a little bit about what Tulsi Gabbard was talking about, just to kind of set the tone.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified Oversight Majority Staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration.
All right, so we need to keep that in mind, that she definitely talked about having a years-long coup against President Trump. This is
Yeah. And what happened was, she's a director of national intelligence. There are tens of thousands of classified documents in storage bins all through there. And most of the time, even though they have the authority to, DNI or the FBI director, CIA, NSA, usually if it's old and it says classified, they figure there's a reason for it and they move on. Tulsi Gabbard had the authority, and she decided to go digging into some old classified material and came across these documents. And just to make it very understandable for the viewers, Donald Trump was the underdog, obviously, in the 2016 election. When he defeated Hillary Clinton, it was considered an upset. He was behind in the polls. He was behind in everybody's mind. He was behind. So after he won the election, Obama, many high-profile Democrats believed that he had help from Russia. They believed that they did some things to push him over the top. So what Obama did at that point, which was well within his rights, is he ordered a national intelligence review of the election. And there's nothing abnormal about that. If you are a president and you feel like there might have been outside interference from a foreign country, then you can do that. Well, here's the problem. Obama got that intelligence assessment, and it said that although Russia was trying to create chaos in our 2016 election, they did not help one side or the other, neither Hillary or Donald Trump, in as far as winning the election. Well, Barack Obama, at that point, any decent president, any decent human being that's responsible president at that point says, okay, we looked into Hillary. We looked into it. He won fair and square. Here's the report, and that should have been the end of it.
Well, what
Right there.
I'm gonna be going into a deeper dive in a future podcast about this, because I actually went through and I looked through the documents that were declassified, and they are absolutely horrendous. Everyone should go out and read them, because what they did, what you watch the intelligence community do with the Russia hoax, you watch them do over and over and over and over again with everything over the last 5 years, 6 years. Completely, if you look at that, you will see that pattern happening over and over and again. This is how they run disinformation campaigns, and they smear to destroy people. They did it to every single person that you saw politically persecuted. That was the template. And they
absolutely right,
deviated
absolutely right
from the norm. But I'm going to go back to a clip from Senator Chuck Schumer talking about what Trump had tweeted about on January 3rd of 2017, before the intelligence assessment came out from Obama.
Let me ask you, I don't know if you have seen this. I don't want to blindside you with this. This is the latest statement, latest tweet, as you were just saying, the president-elect's latest unsolicited pronouncement on the intelligence community. This was his tweet just a little while ago tonight. You see the scare quotes there. The intelligence briefing on so-called Russian hacking was delayed until Friday. Perhaps more time needed to build a case. Very strange. We're actually told, intelligence sources tell NBC News, since this tweet has been posted, that actually this intelligence briefing for the president-elect was always planned for Friday. It hasn't been delayed. But he's taking these shots, this antagonism, this taunting to the intelligence community.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
Do you think he has an agenda to try to dismantle parts of the intelligence community? I mean, this form of taunting, hostility.
Whether you're a super liberal Democrat or a very conservative Republican, you should be against dismantling the intelligence community.
Senator Charles Schumer of New York, as of today,
Okay, so first of all, the reason it took so long for the report to come out, and the reason it was late, is because he didn't use the accurate one, the first one. He sent it back because it didn't show Russian hacking. He sent it back and said, get me an assessment where Russia's showing the Russia hacking in the election. So, he basically told them what to put in the DAMN report, and that's what they used as the second one, and that one had Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin so hooked up, you would have thought they were high school buddies. And then, of course, we know the dossier was purchased and they paid to Christopher Steele millions of dollars to back it up with that phony dossier. So when you just heard Rachel Maddow lie her brains out when she's saying, we just don't know why it took so long to get this. They said it was coming then, it's just coming now. Yep. You know why, Rachel? Because the real one was thrown in the garbage and you had to wait for the fake one to be generated.
Yeah.
That's the answer. That's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, we have to go back and look at all of this stuff, and everybody should go back and definitely take a look at what went on. Right? That's really what needs to be done. Oh, that was really the wrong thing to do. Whoops. yeah, these are things that no person should allow these things to continue. They need to be examined properly. And I'm going to bring up some of the stuff that Tulsi Gabbard actually had on the Russia hoax. And these are some of the emails that were there. Let's actually go back here where it talks about.
That's good. I haven't seen these. So are you going to point out any that specifically are really damning, Dale? I have not seen these.
Well, this is where you're looking at the intelligence community or consensus is that they're not doing anything, right? And so then you see that they go ahead and they continue to push this narrative after the election, right? And then as you continue to see this, there was that secret meeting that they had after the election, and then they ended up contriving this whole plot, right? This is December 9th, the day after the election, right? Or sorry, sometime what was it? No, that was in November, but this is December 9th, after the election.
Yeah, December 9th. Yeah.
That they go and they have this meeting to start putting this information out, right? And so you're seeing all of these problems, right? You're getting the leaks about this. They're building their talking points. They're getting the media coordinated. This is exactly how you're watching. You watch the smear campaigns. You watch all of this disinformation sort of stuff, and you will see them doing the same thing. They get a bunch of people, like how they showed that commercial. They repeated the same lie over and over and over again. And this is what they did, right? And then they used the Steele dossier, which everybody knew was just completely false. But this is how they continue to run their disinformation, their smear campaigns, and everything else like this. And this is the intelligence community that is from the United States government. So we have to when you look at what the government does, everybody has to take it with a grain of salt. Because a lot of people automatically just like, oh, they're telling me the truth. Well, really? Did they tell the truth here? How many times have we watched them lie? Everybody should question everything the government does and says unless it's proven. Because the way that you see this happening over and over again, they say one thing, but they do completely something different. And the evidence was completely not there. And this was from the thread that Tulsi Gabbard put out herself when she put this information out. So everybody can go back and verify this on X and look through the documents themselves, right? And so
exactly, the media now, just to be all fair about it, the media, when the dossier was first leaked, the media had no way to know that this was a hoax. So when it first started with the media, they really believed that there was collusion, because they thought that this was the real intelligence report, the media themselves. But where the media went off the tracks was after the special counsel, Bill Mueller, did his 2-year, $2 million investigation, which, by the way, you and I and the rest of the American citizens paid. And Obama and them knew for a 2-year investigation, and for all this, they knew they were investigating a hoax. They knew the investigation was a hoax before it started. That's what's so sick about this. But as far as the media, once Bill Mueller came back and said that he could not find any collusion between Donald Trump and Russia, that also should have been the end of it.
Yes.
But twice. The first should have been the end of it after the first accurate assessment from the intelligence community, and then it should have been the end of it when the special counsel backed it up years later.
Yeah, we're going to pull up a clip here of General Flynn. He's talking about that the deep state plan didn't start in 2017. It started before then. And the documents that Tulsi Gabbard put out demonstrated this, because they had that meeting in 2016, which we can see that was happening beforehand. So let's pull that up.
So a new piece of evidence that I was not aware of, and I just finished writing, I just wrote a book. It's out as a bestseller right now called Pardon of Innocence. The piece that I was not aware of, which comes out of classified information, it occurred on the 8th of December. So we all knew from my case there was a 5th of January 2017 meeting in the Oval Office. Well, now we know from what Tulsi revealed on the 8th of December 2016, right after the election, Barack Obama had his national security team, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Susan Rice. He had them together, and this is when they made adjustments, and their presidential daily briefing was adjusted, the intelligence was adjusted, and there was direction and intent by Obama given to basically undermine, and this is really when the hardcore component of the coup began. The coup kind of started in 2016 summer, where they started to really build up this case that Hillary Clinton, paid for, this bought and paid for intelligence. But the real hard coup began on that meeting, now that we know this from these released classified documents that Tulsi Gabbard released. So this is very, very important.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, number one, General Flynn is going to be on the election integrity call on July the 30th. So we'll make sure we post that link if anyone wants to hear General Flynn. But General Flynn, can you say the word he got screwed? Are you allowed to say that on the show? I guess I just did. Okay.
Yeah.
He got screwed with something called the Logan Act, which is never been used until General Flynn's, and it was first adopted in 1799. And what it was to keep outsiders from negotiating with foreign countries that contradict the president's policies. Well, Michael Flynn was talking policy to Russia while President Trump was president-elect. And Obama was a lame duck president at the time. And 4 or 5 weeks before Donald Trump took over, General Flynn was talking to his counterpart. General Flynn was the National Security Advisor, the NSA guy, and there was nothing nefarious talking about policy and what sanctions may be coming if Russia continues being aggressive. Nothing to contradict Obama, nothing to change anything Obama did or didn't do. They nitpicked him with something that had never been enforced since it first came in 1799. And bottom line is, he was already picked as the NSA, and Trump had already won the election. So, it's very questionable. Michael Flynn got nitpicked pretty bad here, and I don't think in most cases he would have been charged whatsoever, but they were going after anything Russia, anything Trump, and he was in the crosshairs.
But you also have to remember that General Flynn also wanted to audit the defense contractors when he was head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, right? Think of contractors like things like Metabiota and all these different type of contractors. These are government contractors. He wanted to audit the contractors. That was a bad thing because they were involved in so many different things that were wrong. It doesn't matter. Pick a contractor and you probably find some type of criminal activity depending on who it was and who was paying for it, right? So when he wanted to audit those contractors, he fell out of favor with Obama, and we can sit down and see and understand why. Because he was doing a lot of these other things. But after Obama did that report, a few days later, he did this. And this is the oversight where he did and people should go ahead and we'll just pause it there so that people can look at that. But it's the recommended policy guidance for potential pandemic pathogen care and oversight. This was the policy that set in motion to rescind the moratorium that he put on gain of function research. And this was on January 9th of 2017. So this was
just before he left town.
Right after he put out the report about the intelligence report, a few days later, this comes out. And you know who advised him to go ahead? There's a group of scientists that came here to advise him, and Fauci was one of them, right? So this is what people need to understand. So he regardless of what people think of what he did, it doesn't matter. The fact is that he did it. And we have to look at now, what are the consequences and the fallout of this whole thing happening, right? We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to come back on the other side here, and then we'll talk about this a little bit more at length.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
So for anybody who needs any MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis to call 800-845-2942. Support a good cause. If you're watching on Rumble, BitChute, or Facebook, you can see the links in the description, or you can support with the Give, Send, Go, or the donor box on the ticker. We've got a lot of different products, or you can go to all my links /the Karis Project. There's a number of ways to support. We're going to come back here, and we're going to circle back because General Flynn talked about the different, the coup going forward. But when they were unsuccessful with just, the Russia hoax, they still needed to go ahead and secure the election, right? And how were they going to be able to do that? They had to pull off the cheat of the century, right? COVID was necessary to do that. So regardless of whether he knew or didn't know, rescinding that moratorium on gain of function benefited the people that were doing that. And so we're going to kind of just take a look at the timeline here and of this of the gain of function stuff and the COVID stuff in relation to where Barack Obama starts off here. So this one here, that shows right there January 9th, where he does that at 2017, right? And so then we're going to go, and you can see that Fauci, he delivers a speech, and he announces about, there's going to be another outbreak and all of this stuff. Then they started to talk about Wuhan and the issues with the virology leak, the lab leaks over there and so forth. But they knew about this in 2014. We talked about this in a previous podcast.
Yeah, we did.
So they had this paper out that demonstrated this. And then Daszak is now weighing in on the coronavirus experiments and so forth. So everybody starts to talk about what they're doing. Then they go down, and you see that the U.S. Embassy officials go down to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and notice that there was inadequate safety at the lab. So this is something that they were aware of. And this was something that was mentioned over and over and over again, right? Then you saw that the EcoHealth Alliance was going ahead to try to get that funding in 2018, which we saw was turned down. But they still carried out some of their things throughout the year because they still had funding from that, and they were getting all kinds of funding that we saw that was going on through the COVID select hearings last year, right? And so we knew that they were doing gain of function research. Go ahead.
I was going to say, when we talk about who's responsible for COVID, we can talk about China, but Dr. Fauci is also a prime player because, number one, as you mentioned, Dr. Fauci knew that they were using level 2 labs for something that needed a level 4 lab. That's number one. Number two, when Obama loosened the gain of function restrictions, Dr. Fauci did not speak up and say, Mr. President, that is a mistake. Number three, Dr. Fauci lied about gain of function and the labs they were using for it to Rand Paul in Congress. And number four, when you add all of that up, it equaled a pardon in January of 2025. Dr. Fauci is as responsible as, I'm not going to say as responsible as China, but Dr. Fauci, he was the last one in the world that should have been advising us how to handle COVID when he contributed to it with his actions, and then Obama contributed to it with no checks from any of the people that were virology experts. Is that correct, Dale?
Yes, but what I want people to understand is that they have a funded study in December of 2018 that said that SARS and MERS likely originated in bats. Then in 2019, in July, in the Canadian biolab in Winnipeg, Dr. Chu and her husband are removed from the biolab because they sent the Bangladesh strain of the Nipah virus, Ebola, and other pathogens over to Wuhan. Then in September 12th, the database from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, their viral sequences, is taken offline, right? These are questionable things that you have to sit down and start asking questions, right? And then they suggest that there may have been a hazardous event in Wuhan, right? And then the USAID Predict program, it just shuts down. Sorry, the USAID shuts down the Predict program. Just boom, right? You're watching all of the timeline of these things, and you can find these things from the Epoch Times. General Flynn reposted this. Then you look at they moved the biosafety 2 level lab 900 feet from the human seafood market, right? And then Daszak said that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was experimenting on coronaviruses at the Nipah Virus International Conference. Daszak was also very well familiar of working with Nipah virus. He has this on his resume, and Nipah virus was found in spike proteins that were sequenced at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And nobody is looking into that. They're dancing around like that because you got a guy who was an expert in working with Nipah virus. You got Nipah virus sent from Canada to Wuhan, and then it appears in spike proteins, and everybody's looking around going, I don't know. And then they said that they had proper containment, which it was impossible because that's a level 4 pathogen, and they were working on it on level 2 conditions.
No,
right?
You just mentioned that exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So now you see this happening going over and over and over again, that you're seeing this continual cover up or continual progression of things that don't make any sense that this happened randomly, right? Fauci.
You're right, because when you look at this timeline, every decision that's being made is actually promoting deadly pathogens, not restricting them, not increasing safety procedures. It's the opposite. It looks like they are trying to get this out into the world. And you've been saying it for a long time. Dale.
Oh, yes. And Fauci's dismissing the lab origin. Trump got the national security, the NSA and the DIA to look into the pandemic, right? And you're seeing intelligence agencies that are not being forthcoming on what's going on, right? And then they said that the virus, the U.S. intelligence community says, well, it was likely that it had natural origins. So there again, they lied. because the COVID Select Committee hearings last year, what did they say? It was gain of function. So what did the intelligence communities do? They put out, again, false information, right? Fauci then again doubles down. No scientific evidence that it was made in a Chinese lab. Lied again, right? Former MI6 says the virus probably escaped from the lab, right? And then a European scientist presents evidence that SARS-CoV-2 was engineered.
So if I'm a viewer right now, could this be duplicated? Or now there's enough people aware that because of people like you, and there's a lot more of a focus on this and how it was not accidental. Is it possible that someone could get away with doing this again under current conditions, Dale?
If something isn't stopped, of course this will happen again. Not will it be repeated, because if these people need to go and get back into seize power, they will do it again. Why wouldn't they? It worked the last time and nothing happened. Is anybody arrested? No. Did they fix the issues? No. And I'm going to show a document later that talks about how they used aerosol spread even for the vaccines in caves. Oh, yes.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yes. And then, again, Daszak is denying that that it could have leaked, which, again, lies. Then Fauci gives grants to Daszak, right? Like, you're watching this, and then Ralph Baric is like, well, you can make a virus and make it look like it wasn't there. Like, he called it the no-see-em technique, to make it look like it was a naturally occurring thing, or that it wasn't created from gain of function. And this again here is very problematic, right? Boasting that you can do this.
And why Dr. Fauci is supporting Danzig, Dr. Fauci knows that this is a man-made crisis.
Of course he does. And then the WHO's like, oh, well, China says there's really no lab leak, so we're going to just trust them. But the WHO knew from the document that I showed from 2014 that there was a long history of leaks in China. A long history of them, of outbreaks, because of the improper containment. So how are they going to go and trust them when they were the ones who were documenting? The WHO and the CDC were doing this, and they were well aware of this. But everybody, like the intelligence community, they put out something that they knew to be false, because this was something that was, people knew about it.
If there had been a person in Dr. Fauci's position that was responsible, that called out the level 2 lab, that called out Danzig, someone in the same exact position as Fauci, but a responsible person, would there have been a pandemic in the United States?
Absolutely not. If they did proper engineering controls, that's 80% of your infection controls. In fact, I can tell you right now, the way that every single one of these things were set up were bound to fail, because none of them brought engineers or technologists to deal with the biosecurity in those places. And who keeps those people from dropping dead? Engineering controls. It's the engineering controls, the difference between a level 2 and a level 4 lab. Engineering controls is the biggest difference. Sure, they have some administrative procedures, but they're all contingent on proper engineering controls. And this is where this was never mentioned. And it's like you want to kill people, because that's the most important part of containing pathogens, is engineering controls. And then Fauci finally admits and says, well, it might have originated from a lab leak in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Funny how that changes, right?
Yeah. What do you think he got? Did he get the pardon from Biden because he lied to Congress about gain of function and the level of labs, or did he get a pardon because there was evidence that he did not take action to stop the impending pandemic, or you think it was a combination of all the above?
Probably all of the above, because we have the emails where he was downplaying what was going on in Winnipeg and everything else like this, and he was denying gain of function, but he was funding it. And he was the one who actually was part of the group of scientists that advised Obama to rescind the moratorium of gain of function research.
And that's what was driving Rand Paul up the wall, was that gain of function. Absolutely up the wall, because he had it right. Rand Paul had it right long ago when other people, you saw it, some experts like you saw it, but Rand Paul, as far as elected officials, he was really on it.
The Director of National Intelligence released a declassified summary of the intelligence community's assessment of the origins of COVID-19. And they said it failed to come to a conclusion, and said that a laboratory-associated incident of exposure to an animal was plausible, right? Also keep in mind that the Director of National Intelligence, Avrils Haines, was at that meeting with Obama when they were putting together that intelligence, because she was the deputy director, I believe, at the time. So Avrils Haines, who's the current Director of National Intelligence, is the one that was there with Obama as well, right? So, oh, yes. And then you have, again, I mean, Daszak covering his tracks and so forth, right? Like, this is where we have to begin to start asking questions. And this guy needs to be arrested. All of them need to be arrested, as far as I'm concerned. The hammer needs to come down on these people and anybody else who's shielding them, right? 100%. This is.
But what has changed? What has changed? What has changed? Let's say that 10 years from now, there's another person like Trump that they don't want in office, and you know what's changed? What's preventing these people from doing this all over again?
Right now, nothing.
That's a scary thing.
Nothing is preventing them from doing it. The only thing that's going to prevent them from doing it is accountability, right? And that hasn't come yet, right?
Is there anyone in the Canadian government that you can count on that would go after Daszak?
The Canadian government is more corrupt than the American government, and they have way more control the way the Canadian government's structured, right? There's more checks and balances in the United States by a country mile than there is in Canada. It's not even close. Canada was built for tyranny. Let's look at this.
Canada's starting to get a little close with China. There's some reporting that they're starting to get to be pretty friendly.
Yes, they've always been. They've been for a long time. And the Canadian Security Intelligence Service came out and talked about this. And again, this is a report that just came out that they were again talking about the problems in Wuhan with the biosecurity levels, that they were not following protocol, that they were having issues with it, right? You keep seeing this happening again and again. And people need to just stop and pause this. They talk about the emergence of SARS-CoV-2 and the issues with this. And then, I mean, they talk about the predict proposal and how they were putting the vaccines, aerosolizing them in caves so that the bats could get the vaccines. This is what they were experimenting with. All the people were like, oh no, they can't aerosolize the vaccines. Well, yeah, they were experimenting with it, right? This is the type of stuff that they were doing. This is how they transmitted it. You keep talking about the issues again, about the BSL level 2. These are things that need to be dealt with again and again. They're not and when you're looking at how much gain of function research they did after that pause was put on, the pause was lifted from the moratorium, it doesn't matter whether he knew or not, his actions caused this. And there's got to be some type of culpability for doing that. You can't just sit down and say, oh, well, I took this action. Now millions of people are dead, and then we gave people this shot, and now they're even in a worse problem. And you just get to go home and say, okay, I'm going to eat tea and crackers because I did something that was completely wrong. Right?
The scientists knew that they were in the wrong spot doing this. And, you know, when Donald Trump calls it the China virus, to me, that's Donald Trump saying that he knows China released this on purpose. Why else would you call it the China virus if you weren't in a roundabout way saying China released this on purpose to the world?
Yeah.
That's what I believe. Why else would you call it the China virus?
I mean, he did it, and we'll listen to Fauci talk about himself about removing the gain of function pause here. Right? We're gonna just pull up this clip, and people are gonna hear him say it for himself.
Sure.
Anyway, so let me just go on about NIH lifts funding pause on gain of function research. So let me explain this a little, because whenever this comes out, there's always the pushing back and forth from the press. So like NIH now is going to do dangerous research. No, actually, as a matter of fact, it's exactly the opposite. So a framework has been now established to guide funding decisions on proposed research that might be anticipated to create, transfer, or use enhanced potential pandemic pathogens.
Remember, he said he didn't do gain of function research.
Yeah. It looks like he's got plans how to refine it, doesn't it?
This was in 2018 when he's like, we weren't doing gain of function research. He
contradicted exactly the positions he's taken prior to that. He contradicted his own position.
Absolutely. This is now we're going to
say Fauci. To me, Obama's actions contributed, but Fauci was actually in the position more than even Obama.
Fauci advised Obama. He was part of the group of scientists that advised Obama to rescind the moratorium of gain and function. Fauci knew exactly what he was doing. It doesn't matter. Obama can sit down and say, I'm not a scientist, but Fauci is. And those group of scientists they knew what they did. And he continued to fund the gain of function because he had the moratorium lifted that he advised them to do. And then look what happened. You can't tell me that Fauci didn't know what he was doing. He's full of it.
Yeah, no, he knew what he was doing.
And he directed Obama. He helped direct Obama to make that decision. Right? This is where you have a big problem. And then he came and said that there was going to be a pandemic during Trump's presidency. Excuse me. Right? Oh, well, how did you know that? Because you were funding the gain of function research. Right? So let's listen to a clip here.
Obama wasn't unhappy that there was going to be a pandemic during Trump's presidency.
No,
not a bit.
Let's listen to a clip here with Tulsi Gabbard.
On the subject of documents that we'd like to see but haven't, COVID and its origins. I'm sure you saw that just before we sat down tonight, the Chinese State Council Information Office, I don't even want to know what that is, but it sounds bad. They have determined that COVID came from us, that it's more likely than not that COVID originated in the United States and not in China. I'm wondering whether you have any dispute with that based on what you've seen over here. The intelligence community has been responsible for trying to figure out, in part, how this thing started.
So I created a kind of a special teams group, the Directors Initiative group, that is focused on investigating a number of the president's top priorities and the things that the American people really deserve and want to know the truth about. The origins of COVID-19 is one of them. So they're actively working on that. A lot of the work that's been done is on covid.gov. Have you had a chance to look?
Oh, Trump changed it.
It's quite
great.
a transformation of the website. For anybody watching, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
It's the annoying website to which YouTube and all social media used to refer people with Fauci talking points, and now it's been completely
reversed. So it's a lot of what's been found is already there. But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that, in many examples, has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya, and look forward to being able to share that, hopefully very soon.
And when was that? That's recent, correct?
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful. You are actually, you ought to be very pleased that she is determined to get the truth out about the origins of COVID. That's good news, Dale.
But the one thing that most people don't realize is that aerosolization is how they spread their gain of function. And this was one thing that was mentioned in those documents that I was showing there, that they knew that aerosolization was an issue when they were getting transmission in the labs. This is fundamentally something that people need to understand. Aerosolization is contained by engineering controls. This is how they stop people from dying inside of those places, and they never mentioned this ever. I don't see this happening. You see doctors talking about this, about biosecurity and biosafety, but why are you not having the engineers and technologists? Because Peter Daszak can sit down and say all he wants, that, I think that it was great and it worked. Well, you're not qualified. I'm sorry, but that's outside of your scope of practice. So you can have an opinion on whatever you want. He's not liable. Do you see them bringing the engineers or engineering technologists to come and talk about that? Absolutely not, because they would get stripped. That's crime, right? You can't do that.
The good thing about what Tulsi Gabbard is doing is, regardless of how far she's able to find and how deep she can find and how much she can find, just the fact that the Danzigs and the Faucis and the other crooked actors in this release of COVID, they know that the United States is onto it now. In other words, investigation, but I'm talking about it's a deterrent. It's a deterrent because now those kind of people know, okay, now we got the DNI looking into it. Now there's a question of the gain of function, and Dr. Fauci got a pardon, and he lied to Congress, and he was funding gain of function by saying he wasn't. He knew about level 2 labs, did not speak up. He advised Obama to loosen restrictions on gain of function. Obama did it. And so I think with everyone knowing that this is now public and that the United States government is not going to allow a man-made, of course, if this is a medical, if this is like, what do they call that? The fly thing where you get bitten by the fly, the African fly. This isn't
Malaria?
one of those things. No. Anyway, the bottom line is man-made. We're on to it now. I think it's a deterrent, hopefully, for it to happen again, Dale. Time will tell.
Well, and I'm just going to say this because we're running up on time here. And I'm going to close here right away. What I'm going to say is that aerosolization is how they spread their biological weapons. Like a lot of these, they're all aerosolized. COVID aerosolized. The vaccine's aerosolized. So when you're sitting down and watching people suppress the issue about the engineering controls, They're suppressing the mechanism on how these people poison you, right? All of these people are helping Fauci, and all of these people get away with what they're doing because it's not about personal anything. Engineering controls are engineering. There's no opinion. Either it works or it doesn't. And what they put out doesn't work, and millions of people are dead. Every person that is getting in front of this, and if you understand that these people are trying to protect themselves, then you'll understand what happened to me, what happened to my daughter, because this is the thing. This is like the gun, and the virus was the bullet. You match the gun and the bullet, and you're finished. This is why they're suppressing it, because they're covering up crimes against humanity. They're covering up treason, and it is tied to what Obama did because Fauci directed him to do it. Right? That's really where we're at, and that's where it is. So people want to get down and get in front of that, go right ahead, because you're helping like crimes against humanity. Right? And I'm sick of this because I'm tired because millions of people are dead. I whistle blew this in 2020, long before there was a vaccine, long before people's businesses were wiped out. And if they did that in 2020, we wouldn't be in the state that we're in. And everybody who is going against this is trying to destroy everyone else. And they're sick, twisted, and they need maximum punishment because I cannot stand this. The reason why I did this, because I didn't want anybody to die. That was my first thought when I saw this. My kid could die, someone else's kid could die. And people were running around saying all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, is the engineering controls that what I brought forward true? Absolutely it is. Not a single one of them can come and prove it wrong. And every single one of them will dance around it because they cannot do anything about it because it is the laws of physics that govern that thing. So I'm going to close here with a prayer because we're up on time. Thank you, John, for coming. Everybody check out his links. Will be in the description so you can follow him. And we'll be back, and I'll give you your final thoughts, Kaysha. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. Open our hearts and minds to your will. And Father, this day I ask of you to get the men and the women to come together to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, that we can have some protection from the children who need it the most, and that we could have these criminals brought to justice so that we can have some peace for the children is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Thanks, Dad, for the prayer. As always, thank you, Sir John, for joining us again today. That's awesome. We'll have to have you back in the future for some updates. Guys, please pray, I guess, that everybody starts taking the necessary actions to solve some of these issues because the problems are becoming more clear to the general public, but the solutions are not being implemented. So hopefully, God willing, Tulsi Gabbard and all the people that she's working with will continue to investigate and start utilizing the right tools and information necessary to, prevent these things from happening in the future. Because right now we need preventatives. We don't need cures. So we are in a lot of state of cure though. So, we need to learn from the past situations that have gone on. So anyways, thanks guys for your time and considerations. We'll check you in the next one. And to my dearest Karis, until we meet again, my friend, and we will chat.